Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, a new article just came out, Freddie Mac, and we're going to talk about it here. I'll read you the title in a second. But first, we have an exercise we need you guys to do. Okay. We want you to figure out the earliest video on our channel. So you have to figure out how to find the oldest videos.
Okay.
And find where Juana is wearing this sweater. I guess, what's a sweater, right?
It's a sweater.
It's a sweater, okay. Guys, we just call everything shirts. So everything's a shirt. So her sweater. So as you can see, now she did, I would give you a hint. I would start more than 10 years ago.
I will give you a hint. I would start more than 15 years ago.
Yeah, probably 2009 or 10, you're going to find the first one. We've been doing this channel.
That.
Well, actually, you probably wore that on, we used to do this radio show called Talk About Houses, but none of it was filmed.
That's true.
It was only on, and we actually had a website you could listen to things. Anyway, so if you could find that video, put the date or put a link to it or put what the title of it, that would be pretty funny. But I know that we have that it's probably 15 years ago. Okay. Anyway, the next thing before we move on, because this is going to be a fun one today, is it really helps our channel if you click the little share. All you have to do is click the little thing, the little arrow that says share.
Right.
So just click it and like it. That really helps the channel. It gets more people watching. Okay. We kind of talked about this before, but a new article came out, and Juana and I spent literally all day talking about this.
Okay, so clearly we have no lives.
We have no lives. We literally just talk about real estate all the time. But here's the article. 9 million homes will come on the market in the next decade as baby boomers age. Now, they're not die, they age. But the silver tsunami will be more of a tide. Freddie Mac says, first of all, this is absolutely not true. We're gonna talk about this and prove this completely false. This is total clickbait.
Okay, so I feel like we're the real estate mythbusters.
We're like mythbusters, but for real estate.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, it always gets me, Freddie Mac says.
Yes.
Like Freddie Mac is not a dude's name. Okay? Okay, Freddie Mac is an organization, and organizations don't believe things, they don't say things. It's some person that said that at Freddie Mac. We're going to talk about this. Okay, so first I'll read the first quote. What we're going to do is I'm just going to read the stuff and then want to have a conversation. You'll be able to listen to the conversation. And then you'll be able to participate in the comments. Because this will be a good one for comments. Because in a little while, we're going to give you a specific thing we want you to comment on in the comments. Okay, here's first quote from the article. After a wild ride during the pandemic, the housing market froze over the last year. Total home sales fell to their lowest level since 2011, mostly because existing home sales plummeted to a nearly 30-year low. We'll talk about why that happened. There's simply not enough for sale inventory, but there's some hope from baby boomer households with a wave of downsizing and declining. This is the shadow inventory, Juana. Wave of downsizing and declining home ownership rates expected to bring more than 9 million homes onto the market in the next decade, according to Freddie Mac. This is absolutely, completely speculative, and it's not true. Now, what happened?
Wait a minute. Speculative, yes. Not true, I disagree.
Okay.
So, I agree that there will be a vast number of homes coming on the market. I don't disagree with that.
Right.
However, these people are not going to just put their homes on the market and then just poof, disappear.
We'll talk about that.
Okay. So what are they going to do?
Yeah. We'll get to the chart and then we'll go through all these specific scenarios. Okay. So this is why this came a big deal. This chart literally blew up Twitter over the last few days. Everyone's been sharing this. Then I started seeing it on Facebook. Oh my gosh, this is it. This is the shadow inventory I'm waiting for. This is that cumulative chart of, it looks like, oh my gosh, by 2028, we're going to have 2.7 million houses come on the market. And then in 2029, 3.4 million. Man, there's all these houses are going to flood the market. And if you add up all these numbers, it's probably like 70 million houses will all come on the market. Even though there's only like 23 million or something baby boomers somehow. Okay, so Juana, let's talk first of all. You just said something very interesting. These boomers are not dying.
No.
These boomers, and we have the stats to show this.
And
what they're talking about
they also happen to be our neighbors.
is downsizing. So What they're saying is that 9.2 million boomer households will downsize, and they'll leave their house. Where are they going to go?
They're going to go to other homes. And here's the thing. They're going to go to basically three types of homes, right? One, they're going to go to maybe a retirement community or that sort of thing. So, okay, I'll give you this. That is not exactly taking a home out from the mainstream buyer. I'll give you that. But there are other homes that they're going to go to. They're going to actually purchase more expensive homes. So let's say, for example, they have a 2-story home and they are going to go to a 1-story home. That 1-story home is going to be one of 2 types, right? It's going to be either a smaller home. So then they are taking up a home that maybe somebody at a more entry level would otherwise purchase. Or they're going to a more expensive home. Maybe this is their dream home, their last forever home, that sort of thing. But either way, they're doing one of 2 things. They're either going to hang on to the big home and buy something else because they have the money. Or if they do sell the big home, they're going to buy something else. So at best, it's a 0 net effect because they're going from one home to another. At worst, they're hanging on to the big home and buying another home because they have the money. So the idea that these baby boomers will be the supply of home inventory that everybody's been waiting for that just doesn't add up.
It could actually be worse.
Yeah.
Because they could say, what if they do this? What if they say, hey, I've got this 2-story home, 4-bedroom. I think I'll rent it out. And I'll go buy a little place in San Diego that kind of maybe overlooks the bay or, Old Town or Coronado. And I've got some cash saved in my retirement fund. I'll go buy another house there to live. I'll move there into the 1-story. I'll just live there for the rest of my life. And I'll just rent this house out. And then when I die, my kids can have it. Right? So this idea that the houses are going to come on the market and they're just going to rent, which they're not going to do. Almost 0 people are going to go from homeowners to renters just to downsize because
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, the other thing, remember, the baby boomers are also the wealthiest generation. So they're not like previous generations that maybe they had the bigger home and it still had a mortgage and that they're retiring and they can't afford the mortgage on a fixed income. So they are going to sell the bigger home, buy a smaller home so that they can afford better. That's not the case. Baby boomers are the wealthiest generation. They're not in that position. So that whole scenario does not apply the way it did to previous generations.
The wealthiest generation on the planet.
Yes.
Are American boomers.
Right.
They're the richest. We actually have anecdotal information of people who sold their normal house and then bought a 1-story, $2 million amazing thing that they always wanted because they have all this money. And they're like, what am I going to do with all the money?
Right.
I have all this money, so I'm just going to now buy this super luxury home.
Right. The other thing that they're doing is maybe they're helping out their grandkids. Now, notice I said grandkids and not their kids. Well, the reason for that is because their kids are us. Okay? And we're already at a point in our lives where we don't need help from our parents. So a lot of these baby boomers are actually skipping our generation and helping the younger generation. And we do see that quite a bit where the homes from the baby boomers are actually going to the grandkids because the grandkids are in family mode and their families are growing. So these big 4 or 5 bedroom homes, they don't serve a purpose for people like us anymore, right? Because we're empty nesters.
Yeah.
So that's why they're skipping us and they're going to grandkids because the grandkids are just starting out. So that's another way where they're going to the grandkids and maybe the grandkids already had a home. So then the grandkids get to rent out their home and take the grandparents' home. So all of that just means that the grandparents get to go out and buy a new home and none of that brings new inventory on the market. If anything, it sucks up another home off the market.
This was an interesting quote from the article. Baby boomers are a big deal in the housing market, at least. Most either own their homes outright or are locked into a low mortgage rate, and generally their properties are appreciating in a housing market missing. And 2 to 7 million homes. It's about 7 million. I don't know where they get 2 to 7 million. Boomers are holding on to theirs because mortgage rates have more than doubled during the past couple of years. Like literally, they're saying in the article they're holding on to their homes, and at the same time they're saying they're all going to downsize. Like every single boomer, all 9 million, that hit a certain age, 75 or whatever, are going to downsize in the next, 12 or 13 years. But then they're literally saying they're not doing that because they don't want to. So the bottom line is that this almost refutes literally what they're talking about in the article. Right. Okay, this is the point where you get to put in the comments. We have a bunch more content about a situation of somebody that a relative maybe passed away and what they did with the house. So parent, grandmother, grandfather, like sibling maybe, like did they leave it to somebody? What happened to the house? And Juana and I will talk about this because Juana does a ton of work with probate attorneys, and we have a lot of very extremely anecdotal but very accurate information about what's really happening when people die. And it's surprisingly, it's not Homes Going Market will tell you. And once we tell you, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense. Mm-hmm. I would probably make the same decision. Okay, here we go. Here is another quote. Some have warned of a silver tsunami. This was housing crash number 216, the silver tsunami, as aging boomers look to sell their homes, flooding the market with inventory, right? Which we just refuted because they have to go somewhere. Freddie Mac report reads, but as this analysis demonstrates, the tsunami is more like a tide, bringing a gradual exit that will mostly be offset by new entrants. Juana, there are only about 300,000 boomers dying a year right now. Mm-hmm. There were 3 million babies born last year. Mm-hmm. Guys, there were 10 times the number of people born last year of boomers dying. Mm-hmm. This idea that there will be mostly offset by new entrants is completely false. Juana, boomers are not actually the largest generation.
They're not. So, we have Gen Xers that are bigger. Millennials are bigger. So, yeah.
There are actually far more people trying to buy houses. There were, ready for this? We did a video based on an article. 37 million people said they wanted to buy a house within the next 12 months. All the boomers would literally have to die next year for all those 37 million to go actually get a house.
Right, and the thing about boomers that you have to keep in mind is the ones that are pairs, meaning, a couple. Well, okay, one dies, but the other one is still alive. And generally those tend to be us ladies because we kill them off. And so, we tend to live longer, right? So because we live longer, what are we going to do? Well, a lot of times we stay in the home. Why wouldn't we? This is where we raise our children. This is where our memories are. This is where our friends are. So we stay in the home. So just because, they go ahead and exit, that doesn't mean that the home gets sold. So that home is going to still remain with one of the partners. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So just because a baby boomer dies doesn't mean that anything happens to that house because the partner is still there.
Yeah, we're going to go through some scenarios after I read this. Here, this is another quote from the article. In other words, even as boomers vacate their homes in the coming decade, younger generations will continue to enter the housing market. The Urban Institute projects that 8.5 million new households will be created this decade and 7.6 million between 2030 and 2040. Most of which will need homes. So total housing demand in the next few years is likely to continue to increase. Freddie makes that. This is the only real accurate thing of the article. Housing demand will increase faster than new homes being built.
Right.
And the boomers will have to go somewhere. Now, Wanda made an interesting point here. So I'm a Gen Xer. I'm up the upper range of Gen Xer. When I was born, there were 3 siblings that were teenagers. Mm-hmm. They're all boomers. Okay. And my peers are older Gen Xers and younger boomers. And they tend to be very high income and high wealth. Mm-hmm. Went to the Naval Academy as a fighter pilot. I was an airline pilot for a while. So I have this super high, income sphere of influence. And what I'm seeing that is happening out there is these guys are on wife number 2. Now, I'll give you a couple examples.
Or
One
number 3.
is 65. His twin 5-year-olds that are biologically his kids, his wife is only 45. Now, he's a boomer. But when he dies, his house isn't coming on the market, right?
Right.
Matter of fact, I have a ton of friends. The largest age gap is 26 years. Okay, he's 60, and his wife is in her early 30s, 34, 33, and they've got I think a 6-year-old, right? So this idea that, all these people that are gonna, die or whatever, they're just all of a sudden gonna, their house is gonna become available. It's not true, because remember, if you have married boomers, it takes 2 to die to get one house. And then let's flip over to anecdotal information after I read this next slide, because I thought this was pretty funny. Okay. Because this is really hyperbole.
Okay.
If you don't know what hyperbole is, look it up. Okay.
Exaggeration.
I'm not going to explain. It's extreme exaggeration to make a point. None other than Meredith Whitney, deemed the Oracle of Wall Street by Bloomberg in November 2023, predicted a silver tsunami of baby boomers would start downsizing in 2024 and 25. Whitney said 51% of people over the age of 50. Well, first of all, people between 50 and 59 are Gen Xers, are set to downsize to smaller homes, citing ARP report at Yahoo Finance Conference Center. Not true, because people aren't going to leave their 3% home and go to a smaller home and pay 7%. They're not going to do it unless they pay cash. This move would bring more than 30 million housing units to the market. No, it won't.
No.
Guys, they literally said they would be moving to a different house. How does that act? Like, if you used a phrase today when we talked about this. First of all, what was the phrase used? They wouldn't be downsizing and buying a house. What was the phrase used today? Do you remember what you said?
I don't remember the exact words, no, but...
It starts with an S.
Swapping.
Swapping.
Right.
All they're doing is swapping their house for a different house. This doesn't create... I feel sometimes like I'm an adult and I'm reading these articles that like an 8-year-old wrote.
That is disparaging to 8-year-olds.
That is disparaging to 8-year-olds. Actually, an 8-year-old would figure this out probably before some of these people would. They literally are saying they're going to go into a smaller house, but that's going to bring 30 million housing units to the market. What kind of magic does that have? How does that happen?
It doesn't create any homes, right? Because if I've got this house and I'm going to this house, then no home was created and no sandwiches were harmed. Okay, that's it.
Okay, here's the next quote. But there's a potential caveat. Homeownership retention rates have increased over time with longer life expectancies and healthier outcomes for older people. The average baby boomer is 67 years old, according to John Burns research, and will live another 21 years. We'll talk about that in a second. Taking that into account and using a more recent retention rate rather than the historical average, the decline in boomer households would be closer to 1 million or less. Now, here's the thing. Wait a minute.
Just a minute. We just went from 30 million to 1 million or less. Did anybody else catch that?
Okay. If it's going to take 21 years for half the baby boomers to die, it's going to take 42 years for all of them to die. Because remember, the youngest ones are 59 or 60, so some are going to live to be 100, right? And remember, we already talked about this. Some of them are married to younger people. Okay, now, Juana, you do probate, a lot of probate. You have not had a phone call from probate attorneys in a while with heirs wanting to sell houses. So explain what you're being told and what you're finding out that these people are actually doing. And a lot of these people are actually the silent generation.
Right.
These are people in their, 80s, 90s.
Some of the ones that are passing away are baby boomers. But basically what's happening is the heirs are doing one of several things. And I see this all the time, and so it's interesting to me. So somebody passes away, and then the next generation, or skipping a generation, the generation after that, takes over the house and rents out the house that they have. So I know several people that have done that.
A specific person.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, several specific people actually I know that have done that. So that's happening. Another thing that's happening is if somebody needs maybe company or just having somebody around, you'll have again not the child but the grandchild move in with the grandparent because the grandparent has a really nice home. It's in a nice neighborhood. It's way above the means of the grandchild, and the grandchild will rent out their home, and now they're living in this other home with the grandparent, and keeping company and taking doctor's appointments and whatever. So that's happening. The other thing that's happening is homes are being rented out so that they provide income for the surviving spouse. But none of these scenarios involve selling the home. So there are all kinds of scenarios happening. The other thing that's happening is the younger generations, the Gen X and millennials and Gen Zs, what they're finding is that they're looking at the grandparents' homes and they're realizing value, maybe value that they either have not seen before or didn't really consider before, and they realize that this makes sense to maintain either that home or their own home and move into that home and have a rental property. They're looking at, because remember this, the baby boomers are not the wealthiest generation because they weren't frugal or because they weren't savvy. Okay, they do have their own homes. Some have rental properties. So there's all of this going on where these properties are not being sold. I have somebody who passed away with multiple homes. None of them were sold. Not one. The heirs kept all of them. They kept all the rentals and they're splitting the rental income. They kept the family home and one of them moved into the family home and rented out hers. So there's all of this going on and none of them have sold their home. So again, this is really, really interesting. I've got somebody else whose parents had a health event and the parents are moving into assisted living. Home is not being sold. Home is being rented out to pay for assisted living. So there's all of this going on. These homes are not being sold. And then when these people pass away, then the home still won't be sold because the kids will keep it for their own income. So there's a lot of that going on because, like I said before, people are learning the value of real estate. They're learning the value of passive income. They're learning that it makes more sense to keep this investment than to liquidate it and then do what with it? Put it in the stock market. They've already got money in the stock market because if they've got 401ks or IRAs, they've already got money in the stock market. This is just another investment vehicle that's already right there for them to just draw income from.
Anecdotal, we were hanging out in Coronado, met a couple about our age. They were down there at their vacation house, part-time house, and it turns out that it was her parents' house. And the parents passed away. They lived in it full time, but the parents passed away. And so if you know Coronado, it's probably 2 or 3 million. And they just decided keep it they don't live in San Diego. They decided we'll just keep it and then we'll just come down whenever we want, use the house and just keep it. And, and then because they're inheriting a house that they're the direct heirs, I guess that Prop 13 or whatever is they get their parents' property tax, right? They inherit the property tax too. So there's no huge incentive to sell the house.
Well, particularly if the house is already in a trust, that has nothing changes because the trust still owns the property. So as far as the government's concerned, I don't know that they'd even be any the wiser.
Yeah. Here's the last quote from the article. Baby boomers are staying in their homes longer. They're wealthier. They're healthy. They're able to stay in place longer than generations past, Fleming said, and it's true that the cycle of the large baby boomer generation aging out will happen. But not yet. A Fannie Mae report released Thursday also suggests that baby boomers are content aging in place. Only 17% of older homeowners say they sold their home or plan to during retirement. So all of a sudden that 9 million number has literally, it's back down to like 1 million and change. And remember, this is over 13 years Okay, so now we're in the 100,000 years. And remember, there's what 1.3 or something million households a year being formed. What's more is 62 respondents said their goal is to leave their home to their heirs. So, okay, you've got, but baby boomer dies, wife stays in the house. Baby boomer dies, and the heirs keep the house. Or
right. And the other thing that we've seen is there are people who don't have heirs. And so what happens to that property? Well, just like with anything else, somebody will inherit it. Most of the time, these people do not die intestate, meaning without a will. So most of the time they have made arrangements, and they will go ahead and have somebody that they care about inherits the house. So maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a coworker, whomever. So they do have somebody who is inheriting the house. And then these people, because they're probably of a similar generation, they're more likely to also hang on to the property and rent it out rather than liquidate it, because they don't need the cash. Again, somebody who's going to liquidate a house, then that implies that they have something better to do with the money. So keep that in mind. When somebody sells a house, it means that they have something better to do with the money. Well, what is it? Okay, because that's the thing. When somebody dies and you inherit a house, the first knee-jerk reaction isn't to sell it. It's like, well, if I sold it, what would I do? What if I keep it? I get income. Well, that makes more sense to me, because then it continues to appreciate and I get income. It's all good.
The bottom line is there's a massive housing shortage, and the boomers are not going to dump 30 million homes. They're not just magically going to appear on the market for everybody to buy. If this is your plan, if this is your strategy, it's a poor one. Well, if you're waiting, this is like the people in 2013. Go back and look at any home price appreciation chart. And remember, in 2013, people were making housing crash videos talking about the 1 million wave of foreclosures that were getting ready to hit, that the banks had been holding on to. They didn't foreclose on all the houses. This was second wave of foreclosures. They were getting ready to release them in 2013. And there were actually people who, no kidding, had bought a house in like 8 or 9, and then had sold it 2013, thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get out of this before it crashes again, right? Mm-hmm. And I've heard stories of people saying like they sold their house in Orange County for $700,000, and today they're renting. And the story I was told, the house is worth over $2 million. Mm-hmm. And they said the worst decision they ever made was selling the house in 2013, because they were told prices were going to drop again. So I'm just saying right now, this is not going to happen. Right. There's zero chance that there's going to be this massive. Remember, it's going to take 40 years for the boomers to die. And when you consider all the things we've talked about, namely letting other people inherit the house, those people are not just going to sell the house. Those are going to turn into rentals, or people will move into them.
Right. However, if you would like to sell your house, we'd be happy to help you.
We can help you anywhere in the country with Referral Cloud. It's a platform that we have for referring you other great agents, and we're also happen to be founders of the company.
Right. And if you would like to sell your home in Las Vegas, Henderson, North Las Vegas, Boulder City, then we would be happy to help you personally.
Yep.
So that's a shameless plug. How'd you like the video? Was it interesting? Did you like...
Sorry for how long it was.
Yeah. Did you like the chart? Give us some feedback. Give Todd props for his stunning outfit.
And then we're all both in the same burgundy color, but find out when she wore that.
Yes.
Or how many videos. It's a bonus if you could say the exact number of videos. But yes. We have over 1,300 videos on the channel, and you won't be able to tell by the thumbnails, so you'll have to watch the videos. But yeah.
All right. Well, fun times. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it. Please remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share the video like Todd asked. Please share the video so you can help us grow the channel. We appreciate it. Leave us your lovely comments, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.